Okay. As we mentioned earlier before, there are some potential problems when it's come to give someone the performance appraisal. And then when it comes to the interview as well, the interview for the performance appraisal, there are a lot of problems that can happen, and we need to be aware of the problems, as well as we need to know what are the strategies or how we should do to avoid or to make the performance appraisal more effectively. So first of all, clarify performance standards. It needs to be clarified prior to the appraisal and to the interview, because the standards here is the very important things that based on the standards we compare the actual result, and then we have the performance appraisal result. So this is very, very important. It needs to make sure that both supervisors and both subordinates, they understand the standards, they understand on the same level. What does it mean by poor performance? What does it mean by good performance or excellent performance? All of this needs to be clarified before the performance appraisal process and before the interview. And then fair appraisals. So appraisals, of course, needs to be fair. Everything we evaluate employees, especially if we are a supervisor, if we are a manager, we have to be fair with everyone that we give the performance appraisal, regardless of their age, regardless that we have a close relationship with them or not. So being fair is very important in performance appraisal. Fair means this is some of the characteristics of fair appraisal. The employees should understand in what basis you will appraise them, and the appraisals should be objective, so khách quan. And then we can use a standardized performance review procedure for all employees. So every employee is appraised in the same procedures. So no shortcut. Everyone needs to go through the same process. Let them know that we are doing the performance appraisal. And then make sure that we have observed their performance, not just like we just see them and then talk to them about their performance. No, we should observe and we should understand. Then we can talk, right? And some other guidelines that we need to consider when we want to have a fair and effective appraisal. Some of the problems in the rating, we actually mentioned about this before, but now try to understand it a little bit more. Halo effect. Hiệu ứng lan truyền, lan tỏa. It means that once we rate on something, the result can influence other ratings as well. Example, so we rate this person in two categories. Let's say the work quality and communication, and maybe organizational know-how. So we have three dimensions: quality of work, communications, and know-how. So this is when halo effect happens. So we rate this first person really good on work quality. Then we immediately think that they have good communications and they have good know-how. So our rating is affected by the previous rating. So this is halo effect. You get the meaning of halo effect so far? Understand the halo effect? Yeah. The next one we may encounter, we may see is avoid the middle. We can the term is central tendency. central tendency. So we have, when we rate the people on one trait on a scale, so when we rate people on a scale, our tendency is that usually we don't really want to rate people really, really low, and we don't want to rate people really, really high. So we normally go to the central of the scale, and we rate them around the central areas. Let's say the scale from 1 to 7. Normally, like natural psychology, people rate from 3 to 5. So they avoid 1 to 2, the very bad one, and 6 to 7, the very good one. Can you record it in your time when you do something about the feedback about something, right? Teachers' feedback for your university, right? And they give you from 1 to 5, like strongly disagree, neutral, agree, or strongly agree. And normally, if you don't know if you don't really know how you can rate for this, you will go to neutral or neither disagree. Is that true for your case? Is that true that sometimes you go into a central option, like neither disagree or agree for some feedback? Yes or no? Anyone else? Yes? So understand this as a central tendency. People tend to vote to rate for the center, especially when they are confused, when they don't know what to rate. Okay? Don't be lenient or strict. Lenient, dễ dàng quá, or strict, khó khăn khắt khe quá. Yes, of course. When we rate someone, don't be so lenient. Không được dễ quá, cũng không được khó quá, or don't be so strict. This is also one of my strategies when it comes to you guys, comes to the students. I always have my own rules and principles, but I'm not very strict, but I'm not also lenient. So, yeah. And avoid bias. Bias, thiên vị, or bị ảnh hưởng bởi cái gọi là định kiến. Avoid bias, thiên vị ha, tránh thiên vị. Bias can happen through a lot of different reasons. Maybe we like this person personally more than the other person, so give them much better performance reviews. Or bias may be something like this. We see that this person, they have a poor performance appraisal last year, and this year, when it comes to the new performance appraisal, we still think that this person may perform not very well. So this is also the bias from ourselves, from our thinking that we have the errors in ratings. So avoid the halo effect, avoid the middle or the central tendency. Don't be so lenient or strict, and try to avoid bias. Yeah. Next one is about how we can do the appraisal interview. Actually, in Vietnam, sometimes it's very intimidating for people to go to the appraisal interview because we don't want to listen to the feedback for us. We don't really want to listen for feedback. If it's good feedback, it's very good, but it's not so good feedback, we feel offended, right? We normally feel offended when we receive like negative feedback, and we consider those feedback. It's something that we try to avoid. So, and also for the supervisor who do the interview, who talk to the person, he also needs to make sure that the way he communicates is effective, So maybe the feedback is negative, but the way we communicate for the person to understand that this feedback is only to help you improve. And then not just about the negative. If people they do a good job, we have to tell them that you are a good job, right? We have to be objective, we have to be fair. So how to conduct an appraisal interview? First, we talk in terms of objective work data. Objective khách quan. We have to mention the work data objectively. So this is from the data, this is from the evidence of their performance. It's not, maybe it can be from observations, it can be from written statement, paperwork, the customer feedback about the person, or something like this. But it needs to be objectives, right? It needs to be objective. Don't get personal. So performance appraisal interview is all about let the employees know how good or bad they have performed during the year. It's not about the employees themselves. It's not about their personal problems, or it's not about the personal feelings of the interview or of the employees, but it's about how we can conduct the appraisal effectively so that it can eliminate the performance deficiencies or can improve your work quality, or it can help you to get a bonus or something. So it needs to be avoid being very personal in this interview. Encourage the person to talk. Of course, for this interview, normally the supervisor will say and will give feedback to the employees, but encourage them to talk back to see if they agree or disagree, or what is the reason behind this behavior or something like this, so that they feel that their ideas, their work is valued. So the more they feel what value, the more they are considering this appraisal interview as an effective way to improve their work. Don't tiptoe around. Don't tiptoe means that go straight to the problems and go straight to the matters. Don't, even though it's sometimes very difficult to tell a person that you are a bad person at this work, but we need to be straightforward. Yeah, need to be straightforward and honest. Don't tiptoe around. And next is like how to handle a defensive subordinate. This happens a lot, especially with like young inexperienced employees. So normally when we have a negative feedback, the people reaction is like they're gonna talk about that, they're gonna defend, they're gonna fight, and this happens a lot. So we have here a guideline how to handle a defensive subordinate. So first of all, we need to see that the defensive behavior is normal. Everyone, when they receive something negative about themselves, they will be defensive. It's true, nothing wrong about that, because we are human and it is human psychology. So we understand that defensive is very normal, and then we don't attack a person's defenses. We don't attack mean if they defend, we don't fight back. We don't say, hey, blah 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 blah. We don't do it. So we listen to them, we understand them, and then we can postpone action. So when they so defensive, we can postpone or delay the action until we can explain to the person, and then until we can come to terms, and then we recognize all our own limitations. Why we have on our limitations for the things that people react. Even though we try to understand, even though we try not to attack, but if that person just is a very defensive person in his nature, so there's not much we can do. This is all limitation. We have to accept that there is a defensive behavior, and we try to listen. we try to postpone the action, but there's not much we can nothing else we can do about it. Okay, and then this is how to criticize a subordinate. Criticize, when we criticize someone, what should we do? We should to have evidence. We should to show proof. We should prepare those evidence and proof that we can conclude that this person has made a mistake or has a poor performance, anything. And criticize means that we give them some negative feedback, but it is all about to develop the person, to improve the work. So it's nothing really about criticizing here. It's about the employees that we will say something not really good in their face so that they can recognize and they can fix the problems. And we ensure that the interview leads to improved performance. So the interview needs to have an outcome. Just like us, we have learning outcome. The interview needs to have an outcome, and the outcome of interview is to, like, at the end of the day, the employees will understand their performance, and they can do something, have some corrective action to fix the problem, or to even improve the problem more if they already good at their work. Yeah. How to handle a formal written warning. So sometimes when it comes to performance appraisal, the person's doing very badly and it is repeated. We have to write a formal written warning so that it's become legally defensive. It's become legally defensive, and we have the evidence, and it can serve for administrative purposes. Yeah, so those are the problems of the performance appraisal procedures and the performance appraisal interview. So you have any questions so far about this? Or this part, any question? No questions? Okay. So the last part of the interview thing is how to have an effective appraisal interview. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they have the guidelines of 8 points. Show how efforts are a part of the big picture. So we need to let the employees know that their contributions is something to the organization. So they contribute to the organization, contribute to the big picture. Manifest psychological meaningfulness. We have to manifest this means we have to let the employees know that their work, their job is meaningful to the organization. So their job, first, their jobs contribute to the organization, and their role is meaningful. Then be candid and objective while respectful. Khách quan và tôn trọng lẫn nhau. So we can provide support, resources, and tools needed. So we have to give explanation how to do it. We need to give some references, some resources, and some tools, maybe the printed form or the computer games or something like that, to make sure that the process can go smoothly. Focus on the strengths. This means that the person has strengths and weaknesses, but we get a little bit more focus on the strengths to create a positive environment, a positive atmosphere. Listen and value employees' feedback. Again, encourage them to talk. Okay? Show how efforts are part of career development. So we show them if they put efforts into their work, if they work really, really effectively, it is a part of their career development. So this appraisal performance interview is also useful for their career development. Not just for pay purpose, but it's also good for their career development. and ensure fair and just rewards or remedial actions. So ensure that everything is fair and just, công bằng ha. So this is the guideline. Let's just try to understand what are the problems associated with appraisal performance and with the interview, and how to conduct the interview, and along the side with this guideline over here. And now today's lectures is almost finished. So what we have left is performance management. 1, 2, 3, 4 slides. We can do it on Wednesday, and then we can start a new chapter on Wednesday as well. Okay. So for today's lectures, remember the purpose of performance appraisal. Remember the methods, their advantages and disadvantages, and how we can improve employee engagement through appraisal or performance appraisal, sorry. And last part, in this summary, we will go to cover in the next chapter, next lecture on Wednesday. Now, there's something you can ask me. Any questions, ask me now. Anyone has any question?